What brings you down to the cold streets of Soho this evening? The likes of me, you say? No, come. That's something of a generalization.
Welcome to Book Club.
Except instead of books, it's games.
Oh, and instead of a club, there's us two.
But the rest of the idea is 100% the same.
As every fortnight, we play one game solidly.
Then come here to talk about it.
And we want you to do the same.
All the games are retro.
Most of them are Sega.
Some of them we've never played.
Or, we've just forgotten we've played them.
Because we're old.
Because we're old! Because we're old.
Because we're old.
The Book Club has one central theme.
We play retro games for their quality.
Games that deserve to still be played.
There are some bonus old man memories to be had. But you don't need nostalgia if the game is awesome.
We're going to prove it.
In the Book Club.
Hello and welcome to Book Club. I'm here today looking mightily dishevelled and outshone by my compatriot who's looking stunning, hirsute, glamorous, you might even say. Hello, Mr. Dimsdale. How are you doing?
Hello. I'm very good. How are you, sir?
Yeah, I'm good. I mentioned I'd look in the shower because just before we started, we said normally we record a bit earlier in the week, and we were recording a bit later, so I'm a little bit further away from having had a shave, and I'm looking a bit ropey. So if you're listening rather than watching, you've made the right choice. That's all I'm going to say.
The old bikini line's a little bit rough again. Oh, you mean this? I see.
Look like David Hasselhoff's hair in Knight Rider sneaking out my boxes. Just trying to picture how beautiful his hair actually is. In my hair. Anyway, let's talk about the game instead of Michael Hasselhoff. Michael Knight, rather. What we're talking about. It's all going apart. Let's talk about the game. What game are we going to be talking about today? Hit me with it.
Yes. Hit me. So we are going for the Capcom launch day here in the UK, bad boy known as Power Stone. So
Beauty.
This is a copy I picked up at some point. I
Who
actually have
knows?
no memory of when I got this game. It wasn't on launch. But
Now
like,
that
and I
is
usually
very
have,
unlike you, isn't it?
You know what? Yeah, I was going to say, I usually have like very specific memories of picking up games, and there's like a little story attached to it in my head and everything like that. But Power Stone, I'm getting nothing. You know, the only thing that's coming to me is that I think I got it in MVC. Do you remember that shop?
I do remember MVC because that's where I got all of my New Adventures of Superman VHSs from. Just still get in the garage like some kind of pervy collection.
Yeah. Treasure trove. Yeah, no, I think I got it in MVC. So but that is literally the only memory I have of it. And I might be blurring that because I got my Dreamcast PAL version on launch day at MVC. So maybe it's just that association. It's hard to tell.
It is hard to tell. I mean, if you've watched or listened to many of these episodes, you'll know you do have like a razor-like memory and can generally remember weird minutiae of the day we went to like pick up games and stuff. So it's interesting. It's like a weird kind of void. I'm shocked.
It's weird.
It's
very strange because it's like my memories from a long time ago are pretty good.
Yeah.
So like my wife will tell me stuff today and I'm always in trouble because I forget to do all the things that she says about, and like literally I can't even remember the conversation when she's reminded me of it. So it's got to be something like these memories are just locked in.
She's gaslighting you, dude. Now that she knows that you can't remember, just think of all the things she might be making up. You got to watch out for this stuff.
Yeah, that is true, actually. She did actually say for the first time, like, actually today, like, oh, there's no point telling you because you're not going to remember it. So, and it's fair enough. I'm actually not going to remember it. So.
And it's so weird because I rely on you so much for the gaming memories. You know what I mean?
Right, the games are locked in.
The important stuff is there.
They're bulletproof. They're not going anywhere. So. And if nothing else, we're documenting all this stuff on these episodes before it disappears from my memory completely. So.
In fact, we could pass the message on to our kids and our grandkids. See, we used to make sense before we became the babbling Rex that you now know.
Yeah, exactly.
Now, can we make sense about Power Stone? I figured a good place to start with Power Stone, because it did something new at the time and it was so interesting, is exactly how it plays. Let's start there. Tell us about how it plays, the kind of game it is, and we'll dive into that side of it because it's a good side to dive in, I think.
So it's a 3D fighting game, which at the time kind of was a bit of a novelty actually, because of like, even 3D fighting games like Virtua Fighter and stuff like that, they're kind of locked in on a 2D plane in a way. I know they put in like the kind of dodge moves and stuff like that in Virtua Fighter 3, so you could then start utilizing the 3D element. But it wasn't like this. It's like you could literally like run in all kinds of directions in this particular arena that you're in. And and the name the Power Stone derives from the fact that there are these like mystical gems that maybe I'll read the story on the back of the box later or something like that. But basically, what you want to do is grab these 3 gems, get your character powered up, so you can basically do these super moves on your opponent and just batter them. So it's like this constant monitoring what's kind of going on, like checking the little radar thing that's in the bottom corner, like so that you know where to run to get the gems when they become available, because you kind of each start out with a gem and then you have to like hit someone to make them drop their gem, then try and get that, and then there's a third one that eventually kind of spawns basically. So it's like this whole kind of thing that's going on, like a very interesting dynamic, and it's it was kind of not like anything we'd really had up until that point.
I mean, not that many other games at all, but definitely not like, because the thing is, you start out and you say it's a 3D fighting game, and like you think your Soul Caliburs, your Virtua Fighters, your Tekkens, whatever. But you're so right that the point is they are always re-establishing the fighting along a 2D plane, just in a 3D environment. And once you get onto Virtua Fighter 3 and stuff, they start making more use, and I suppose Dead or Alive series does it, making more use of the fact there is 3D. But they are ultimately still like side to side, like 2D. This is really like the point being, picture it, you've got your thumb on the analog stick on your Dreamcast controller, you can just literally run around in figure of 8 anywhere you want. It fully makes use of the actual third dimension, and and it made a big difference, because then like that, I suppose what they then did was saying, well, if you're on a 3D plane, you can't then do the type of intricate fighting moves that like a 2D fighter or like a Virtua Fighter would do, where you can be quite precise about your combos and stuff, and the gameplay focus shifts, doesn't it? So like how would you describe the fighting in Power Stone? Because that's not similar as a result, is it?
Well, the actual brawling, like the punches and the kicks, you mean?
Yeah. Well, all of it, but that's the bit I was thinking. Yeah,
I mean, like the actual up close, I mean, it's kind of you have to get quite up close, and it kind of feels quite intricate actually, because the arena's kind of quite sprawling and stuff like that, and then you're kind of having to get up close with your opponent and that, and then it's like it kind of almost feels like you got little stumpy arms and legs in a little way, doesn't it? Because of how vast the arena feels by comparison. So but it's nice. It's got like a good series of attacks. You got throws as well actually. Like one of the characters that I had, like I started out with that Falcon guy, and he was I noticed he does a little kind of what we used to call jackknife, like the somersault kick, like Guile kind of thing as part of the combo, and that was quite fun. But I mean, there's like a whole variety of stuff that you can do. I mean, one of the main attacks you basically do is the jumping dive kick sort of thing, isn't it? Because that's like just the guarantee thing to make your opponent drop the gems. It's pretty much like, sometimes it kind of just evolves, doesn't it, into jump, dive kick, jump, dive kick, jump, dive kick, trying to just get the gem off of them and stuff like that. But it's no, there is a lot to it, and it's very strategic. And actually the way like I eventually ended up getting through the game and like just improving what I was doing was just from like kind of having these foundations in place. Like I can't really remember a lot from way back when we originally played it and stuff like that, so I was kind of starting from scratch. But it was then when I started implementing stuff more strategically, that's when I actually was able to get through the game a lot more proficiently.
Because there's like fighting wise there's tactics, but gameplay wise overall there is strategy, because you sort of have to think. I mean, in any one match you'll probably employ multiple strategies, but generally it's like, okay, in this match am I going to go all out for getting the Power Stones? Am I going to try and like have a fight? Am I going to like try and chip away his energy, or am I going to go for the big move? And like, you know, generally, yeah, you want to go for the big move and finish it off and be the one that gets the Power Stone special attacks and stuff. But just sometimes it just won't go your way. You know, you keep trying to get to it. They'll keep chipping you and like getting one of your stones back and stuff. You have to react and adapt and stuff. So there's tactics and there's strategy. And it's surprising that you're right. There's surprising depth to how varied how like detailed each match gets, considering the simple range of attacks, or like simplicity of the attacks.
Because it can feel a little bit like when you're you know, you can feel a bit defeated already when your opponent gets the 3 gems and stuff like that, and you're like, oh man, and then you're like on the run and trying to figure out ways to avoid it. Like there was one particular level, the one with the fountain in the middle, and I realized that over to the right hand side of the stage, if I hid behind the steps, they couldn't get me with whatever it was that they were doing.
I remember that.
And so basically they do give you a kind of way out. It's like you're not as defeated as you thought you were going to be, because some of the weapons that you can pick up, like the flamethrower or the rocket launcher and stuff like that, it can kind of work well to kind of help you fight back against those powerful moves and stuff. So you're not completely as dead as you originally feel. So it's quite interesting.
There are ways out, but it's like the finishing moves are deliberately powerful, like I understand, you know, because, and I think it's a really useful example of why the game dynamic, or how the game dynamic is so different from a standard fighter. Because if in, say, a Street Fighter game, you could get, because you can get the 3 Power Stones in like seconds in some rounds. Like if you could get your super special in Street Fighter like that fast, and pretty much like either like knock the other guy out or take him right to the edge, it would feel so cheaty and unbalanced and cheap, and like, you know, like at first glance it seems bad. And I read a thing with the producer, that Tezuka, I can't remember his first name, Tezuka anyway, Tezuka-san, we'll call him that, and sound all clever, and he was saying, well, they are deliberately powerful, because the point isn't like you being good at the fighting, the point is you being good at the strategy, and saying like, okay, so you know those moves are powerful, so then you've got to think, well, how can I stop my opponent getting the Power Stones? How can I get the Power Stones? You know, and I thought, that's it, isn't it? It's like you've got to change your whole mindset. It's not how can I fight better, and how can I make better combos or better tactics in the fight, which is still there. You know, you like have to be good and get your reactions and your hits in. It's about the strategy across the landscape, in the level and stuff. I thought, it was really interesting reading that. You have made a very different game, and they are deliberately powerful, but you've got to react to that in the way you play. It's good, right?
Yeah, definitely. And it's like there's elements as well, like where, you know, sometimes again it's like employing tactics. Like, so when the weapons turn up on the stage, it's like, you know, I kind of sometimes think like, oh, shall I leave that there in case I need it for when they power up? Or when they've got like 2 gems and you hit them with one of the weapons, you can make them drop 2 at the same time, whereas like the dive kick and stuff will make them only drop 1. Exactly. So there's a lot of depth to it, and a lot of strategizing to what you actually can do. But it's all good. Actually, I was going to say, when you was talking about Street Fighter and like if you could get gems in Street Fighter, I suddenly had like hideous flashbacks to, what was it, Street Fighter Cross Tekken? Do you remember when they put gems into that game, and it's like they completely broke the whole game and like wrecked it? And they basically wanted to nickel and dime everyone with their like DLC gems and stuff like that, and then everyone was like, within a week was like, should we go back to Street Fighter 4? Let's go.
And it shows you though, doesn't it? Like, you've got to fine tune a game, and the fact that this game can work with such like a killer move, which doesn't ever take your whole health, but it basically knocks you out. It shows you how well tuned it is, that like you can feel a bit defeated when you're first playing and the computer characters or 2-player like are picking those gems up. And then you start to get it, and you realise how you can fight back on, just like you were saying. And it's like, that's when the depth starts to come out, isn't it?
Yeah. Well, how did you find the characters? Because what the differences between? Did you try many of the different characters, or
I can't say I've got like good range, but like I've tried out a bunch of them, and like I appreciated how like you found yourself quite naturally adapting. Because like they are simple to pick up, all the characters, despite the fact, you know, we're explaining how there's strategic depth. The character moves are very quick and easy to pick up, But I was surprised like how much strategy there is in not deploying just the simple moves, but the special moves for each character as well. Like they add a very different dimension because when you know your character's special move it can take someone out wherever they are on the map, versus in other characters you have to be more targeted and focused. That changes the balance of whether you go for the power stones or whether you go for the things. Yeah, they're clever. It's like subtle differences. I gotta say, I definitely picked up some real what should we call them, like nemesis characters in the computer like control when they were computer controlled. Though some of them were just oh god, they were punks.
You know, the thing that really annoyed me playing against the computer is it felt like I don't know if it's correct, it's probably just me, I don't want to like be one of those people blaming the game or something like that, but it felt like when you were standing where the gem is spawning and they're standing by where the gem is spawning and you're both there trying to get it at that same instant, it feels like it always would give it to the computer. It felt like they had like some kind of priority or something. Like I say, it's probably just me, I wasn't in the right place or something like that. They just happened too many times to make me feel like this is screwing me over here.
The thing is though, with those like this, my moan is like somehow cheaty. So, who's the like mummy guy with like all bandaged and he's got like sort of like
Jack? He's my favorite.
He's the one that kept getting me.
Most.
But like he wound me up so much because it wasn't getting the gems quicker. He would just always get hits on me. Whereas with the others, I felt it was kind of more balanced. He'd just always get me. But the satisfaction when you started to unpick like where the weaknesses were and stuff, and again the range of attacks didn't seem that huge, but I don't know, it's still quite subtle how you unpick it.
I mean, there's definitely differences in there. I mean, it's quite slight. I mean, they've all got the basic punches and kick stuff like that, and they kind of jump in like dive kick sort of thing. But like, I quite liked like Jack's one was kind of like a yoga spiral kind of thing, like similar to Daoism and that. And I was like, oh, that's cool. I like that.
Dude, you're giving me post-stress disorder now, like talking about it.
Sorry.
He's like painful. Well, how did you find the characters then? Because like, did you do a range or did you specialize and like focus on one?
I played mainly Falcon and Jack, so like they were the two that I kind of stuck with, because like Jack, actually I found that I could get through the game a lot quicker with him for some reason. But then once I got to the end bosses, like you have to do that run of like, is it 3 characters? And I had to I found like if I switched out to Falcon, like he was better basically for taking on what they were doing. So that was always be like kind of what I ended up doing really. I would zip through it with Jack, get beaten by the boss guys, switch to Falcon, and then see the game out. So that was kind of my thing. But I don't know what the reason was. Like I definitely because I could play through it with Falcon, but it took like literally twice as long as when I played through it with Jack for some reason.
Well, there's definitely matchups that are hard, and so like maybe just found one of those. It reminds me though, the first time like I played it properly, I mean, this is going back some time now, but it's obviously scarred in my brain. And just one night, it's like I was determined, right, I'm going to beat it. I've never beat it before. And it was something like 3 a.m. when I was finished, because you keep, like, what you do, like a sort of a sub-boss, a boss, and then an ultra boss or something, don't you? It's like...
Yeah, it's like a big funny, like, it's like a kind of Jabba the Hutt looking slug thing with arms and stuff, and you kind of just like fighting it. I was so confused. I was like, what is going on here? It's like very bizarre.
It's a bit like the first time I met your mama. Yes, yeah, it is. But like,
nice.
But basically, like, I was getting through the characters, first few easy, like get beat a few times on the lat ones, but getting through, and then thought I'd got to the end, and then hadn't, and then thought I'd got to the end again and hadn't, and it was just oh man, tricky getting on. I mean,
it was the second phase that was the one that was the most tricky I found, because I mean he just did so much damage. That Valgus, is it? I mean, so hang on, there's like a pirate guy you fight. Is he part of this trio of the end boss?
That's
is he separate, or is it just? Yeah. But basically, when you get to that Valgus guy, anyway, he was the one that like he was doing my head in, because just his normal attacks are so powerful.
Yeah.
You're like you're trying to chase down to the gems just to give yourself a chance, and he's just like battering you, and suddenly it's like KO or whatever, and it's like, what?
I know.
Like, he's killed me so fast because like he does a throw and it takes like so much damage off and stuff.
The good thing is though,
yeah.
you've got to count your blessings that this was on like Dreamcast, because imagine trying to do this on like an earlier system where the load time to like refresh the round and go back into it would be so brutal. Because like, remember playing Soul Calibur the first time actually, and that was like, oh my god, this is such a blessing. Getting my ass whipped, but at least I just pressed up and I was straight back into
straight
it.
back in. Yeah.
One of the most impressive things. I mean, what stuff would you say works with Power Stone and what doesn't work? Because it is so different, and like it's not perfect. Like it's loads of fun and stuff, but there are little annoyances. What would you say works really well? What stuff doesn't work?
I mean, I think the whole thing works as a package. Like once you get your head into it, and it's not as confusing as like I mean, obviously people do like comparisons of it to Smash Brothers and stuff like that. But like for all the times that I've tried to get into Smash, and for all the tournaments even that I've watched of Smash, I really don't know what is going on.
It's just so manic. It's just nuts.
But it's crazy. I mean, like I used to literally watch it at Evo and stuff like that, and I could never really figure out. I mean, it was exciting, but I could never quite get my head around it because you don't have like visible energy bars and stuff like that, and it's like, you know, it looks like you're falling off the stage and then suddenly they get back on and things like that. So it's like Power Stone to me felt like a Smash that I could understand a little bit more because it still was close enough to traditional fighting games that I could look at it and be like, all right, I get it. There's your energy bars. Like, you know, it's like you realize you can interact with the environment, things like that, like swinging around posts and things like that, or jumping on the ceiling, like and things like that. It's like all that stuff, once you kind of understand it, it's like at first it's kind of like a little bit like, oh, there's quite a bit of stuff you can do here, but then once you get your head around it, you start like implementing it in what you're doing, it starts really clicking and being fun. And actually for me it was a little bit like a little bit of a dream come true in a way, because like I always
this isn't going to be a smutty dream, is it? Because I've heard about your dreams before.
Actually,
they go a bit.
Wait and see where this is going. So this is I'm going to be referring to the Street Fighter animated movie.
Oh, mama.
And it's the scene right after Chun-Li's in the shower.
Yeah.
But I always thought like how cool it would be if they could capture that battle she has with Vega, you know, where she's in her apartment and stuff, and they're jumping off of the walls, jumping off of the ceilings, whatever, and using all this stuff. And like I would think like that would be so cool if that was in a game. And when I kind of started playing Power Stone, it's like, oh, you know, it is a little bit capturing that, you know what I mean? It's like there are elements of that in this game, and it's like, you know, and it would be so impossible like really to capture, like being able to capture that kind of fight with Chun-Li and Vega and kind of like get it into a game. It would be completely impractical, I suppose, in a way. But like, yeah, Power Stone did go a little bit of a way to fulfilling that kind of dream.
Do you know what? I've never ever thought about it before, but as you describe it, I totally can feel it. Because the thing is, like the way, obviously, it's in close quarters. They're using like remember the bit where she like picks up the lampshade or whatever it is.
I was going to say like they're using environmental stuff.
Using environmental stuff, like you kind of pitch. Obviously, like with the animation, they're able to kind of accentuate the moves. But you know, like there's a couple of bits like close. This is in the movie. If you haven't seen the Street Fighter animated anime, you got to go see it. It's still so good. And I did. I'm just going to say I did spend quite a long time trying to find the original version with a certain scene in it, which it's edited out. Anyway, we won't go there. But like when they're in the fight scene, you know, they'll do tricks like they'll kind of hone in on like the feet as they kind of spring off a wall to accentuate the power of that attack. I can really sort of find the similarity. Like think when you spin around a lamppost and then you let go and you hit someone perfectly and it's really satisfying. It is that same vibe. It's like you're in close quarters. You almost use the scenery to kind of accentuate or like to bounce off the scenery. Literally, in some ways, it's like, yeah. I think obviously like that is so intense because it's in one room. Like in a way, Power Stone gives you a little bit more space. Like it's quite rare you get kind of hemmed in, isn't it? You can
Yeah.
But like,
Yeah, you got options
comparison.
and stuff.
I get it.
You can roll away. Yeah, but no, I thought that was once I kind of had that little thought cross my mind, it was like, yeah, and it kind of made me think like, oh, maybe they can, maybe they could do a Street Fighter with that kind of fight in it.
Yeah. It's funny actually, as you were saying it, so you think like of Vega going on his fence or Chun-Li bouncing off the wall back in original Street Fighter, and you think, I don't know, Capcom have always been up to some scenery-based shenanigans, haven't they? It's like
they have,
like
that hijinks.
We love your hijinks. I mean, that stuff was impressive back then, and this is almost like, how can you make it as impressive? Because you got to remember, like Power Stone, it still looks great today. Like, man, I was playing it like on the setup, and you go through VGA, and Dreamcast still looks damn fine. But like, you got to remember like how good that looked at the time, because obviously the leap to Dreamcast was huge, but Power Stone with its special effects and like it's like big moves, like really nice crisp scenery, and like character models looking really tight, and obviously everything moving super fast, like it did look amazing as well. And so kind of having that 3D, like fully 3D environment that actually looked crisp and interactive was quite a novelty in itself. Do you know what I mean? Like, think like
yeah, definitely.
I mean, this was not long. Help me get my timings right. This wouldn't have been like that long after, say, Burning Rangers, where Saturn's still struggling with its like 3D architecture. I mean, a year or so, but like still not ages. But like and now you've got this thing where the 3D environments are just, I don't know, perfect, basically, aren't they? It's like
yeah. I mean, it looks amazing. Like actually, just playing it now, like the characters and everything, the colors so vibrant. It's just like a brilliant looking game, and it's like it's got a real style about it, hasn't it? It's like, because it's from that. It was like, what is it, like a 19th century setting and stuff like that, and it's kind of got this pirate theme and this kind of, it's just like, it's just real nice looking game.
It's funny how that is. What is it, like steampunky a bit, isn't it? Like with
it's got a steampunk element. Yeah, it's like almost fusing with anime with steampunk, isn't it, and stuff, which is good. I always remember for a project I tried to fuse anime with H.R. Geiger's style,
nice.
And it's like the teacher liked it. I'm not quite sure about the result, but like I always quite like that, like fusing a couple of things together, and like Power Stone really nails it. Actually, I think, doesn't it?
I mean, steampunk was huge at that time as well, wasn't it? Like Dreamcast, like Saturn going into Dreamcast, just that feels like peak era for all that stuff. And I guess it sort of suited the graphics as well, because you sort of had enough power to bring sort of fantastic creations to life, but they needed to be a little bit otherworldly so that your brain could kind of fill in the gaps. Do you know what I'm talking about? But the art style, because who is that guy that did loads of the Street Fighter art, was it? I'm gonna have to look at my notes. What is it? Akira Yasuda. And he did like Final Fight, he did Street Fighter, he did like both the Power Stones, he did Darkstalkers. Not all of them as the artist, like some of them used the planner, but a lot of that real classic Capcom style, like is this guy's stuff. And you think, and actually I saw a thing, it was like it was just a picture of his concept art for the characters, and they're like almost identical to the finished product. And you think, I guess that just speaks of how great it was, because normally when you see concept art it really changes quite a lot, and this was like literally was the characters in early sketches.
He's got it right in the ballpark where he wanted it. But then they're so interesting characters as well, actually. Like I think one of the comparisons I saw someone would say, it was almost like the Overwatch cast before Overwatch, because this big band of like quirky characters or something like that, bright and vibrant, like kind of very peculiar bunch of people and stuff like that, and it is kind of like, I could definitely see that comparison with these guys, because they're all very unique looking, aren't they? And I mean, and well designed as well.
You think Capcom's always done that? Like, think of the Darkstalkers games and how like crazy wild the characters are in that and stuff, and you think, well,
wait, there's more characters than just Morrigan. What are you talking about?
Oh lordy. But I always sort of feel like it's a Capcom thing. I mean, you're definitely right, like the characters are really a big part of the feel, aren't they? But it's more like if you look at other fighters and how, I don't know, I wouldn't say other fighters are completely limited, like some like every fighting game's got a range. It's maybe just that Capcom did it really well. It always felt like, however crazy the characters got, they still felt rounded and like they worked. They didn't just shove like a random like panda in or something and just like hope it worked. They would.
It was a great era around that time, wasn't it? For what they were doing and all their characters and everything like that. It was just, I always loved all the artwork they would have in like Sega Saturn magazine and stuff of all the Capcom games and stuff. It looked brilliant. And really good.
I mean, I tell you one thing though, like talking what works and doesn't work on this is like I've only ever really played this one player. And like you and Lark's got a lot of 2-player in there, and I do wonder.
Wow.
Like I wonder, like, did you tell us a bit more how it plays 2-player? Because I can't really talk to it, and like it's a very sad moment for me because I feel like I missed out a whole era with this stuff. But like we have to correct it. Actually, we need some 2-player game.
Yeah.
But like I could imagine that it could get a bit unbalanced, and one person could sort of really just dominate a bit too much. Did that happen, or it's like, how did you find it?
You know, I'll be honest, like it was for how good it is, we didn't play it that much, and I can't really remember too much about how it panned out. I remember enjoying playing it in 2-player more than against the computer. I mean, that's where the game shines, because it's like, you know, especially when you feel like you're being robbed and done an injustice for picking up the stones. It's very irritating. But no, but it's like in 2-player mode, that's where it's at basically. And we unfortunately didn't play it like as near enough as we should have, because we were so like, you know, they had Virtua Fighter 3 come out, the Street Fighter games was coming out, like I mean, like Soul Calibur came out only about like was it about 6 weeks or something after the Dreamcast came out. So, you know, most things kind of like when that game came out kind of got put in the shade a little bit for us. Maybe not Sonic Adventure and a few of the other ones, but then he also had like Dead or Alive 2 coming out and stuff. I think, but I mean, basically
Soul Calibur definitely soaked
Soul
up
Calibur.
It soaked up like all of my fighting game energies, really, because it was just it's just so good. And it just but I mean, like I say, you know, I didn't really get to Power Stone until a lot later at all, really, but it was when I'd kind of finally got a job and had some money and started buying up Dreamcast games I'd missed and stuff, that I even put it in the collection. So like, I missed it entirely, but certainly the 2-player stuff, because you could see the thing is that the computer AI is good on Power Stone, but ultimately it's AI, and you know, it just has a way of playing, and you get to learn that and you beat that. Whereas you could see with how random the game is and how much sort of just how manic each game could be, that 2-player would just never be the same, like never be one match the same as the other. Like feels like we need to get some playing over the summer, dude.
I think we do. Definitely. I'm well up for that, and we're going to be playing it on VGA, because that was one of the things that I've discovered this week. Is that so my PAL copy, it's always been stuck in the rotten 50 hertz, because they never put in the 50-60 hertz switch on this one. And I was always like, oh man, I can't believe it, that sucks. But what I did figure out is that I got this little disc here. It came free with like some magazine or something. It was actually sought after at one point. So it basically breaks the region lock. And because I got a Japanese Dreamcast, which runs at default like 60 hertz, if you put this in it, then put a game that's locked at 50 hertz PAL, it then crunches that game into 60 hertz and makes it run properly, because it literally had no optimization at all as far as I can see.
Little bugger.
So, you know, it was like literally 50 hertz slower, had the borders and all the stuff, and I was always like, that's so annoying. I must get it at import at some point. But then being able to do that with this action, what is it, like an action replay, action replay CDX disc, basically fixed it. So I was like, I don't need to get it on import, I just run it through that method and it's fine.
Nice.
However, now preparing for this book club, I was like, my Japanese Dreamcast is like in the loft or something like that. I've got my PAL one set up. But I was like, you know what, just play it in 50 hertz for now, it's fine. But however, I'm running my Dreamcast through a VGA cable now into a monitor through an OSSC. And when I turned it on, I was like, that's weird. It hasn't got any borders. It's like filling up the whole screen. And actually it feels like it's running at 60 hertz. And what I discovered is that there is a 60 hertz version of Power Stone in the Power version. You just can't select it. But if you use a VGA cable, it defaults to 60 hertz. So it was been running perfectly. And it's like, you know, all this time later, especially with my personal grudges against the Bane that is the 50 hertz that was inflicted upon us here in Europe. But it's like, yeah, just have it completely fixed.
I was waiting to throw that in, because for everyone listening, for context, you gotta imagine like 30 years of like living with Dibs, like dealing with his rage at 50 hertz and all the associated borders and shenanigans. Like this is a dude that really can't stand
I do go on
that
about it too much. I feel bad for Swagger Blonde, the amount of times I've gone to him like about 60 and 50 hertz or something like that.
But the flip
Shout
side
out
being,
to Swagger Blonde, by the way.
hi Swagger Blonde. But the flip side being that we can then imagine your joy at finding like that this was there all along. I mean,
Yeah.
wonderful. And a bit of consumer advice, bit rare from us schmucks. But what can you do?
Yes, there you go.
Well-
but yeah, no, it's amazing, like finding a new thing about this game all these years later. Like,
I know.
I literally didn't
Tucked
know
away.
about until I accidentally had the right combo of wires set up just this week, and it's like, oh, that's really cool.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's been great.
Well, and just a quick note, I mean, no one mentioned it a minute ago, but how good it all looks on VGA. I mean, Dreamcast generally on VGA looks amazing, but into the VGA and the OSSC, I was honestly watching it last night on the telly. Like, I got a 4K telly and thinking, geez, I would not know if this was like a Switch game or something like, or, well, I won't go as far as say PS4, PS5, but like, you know, say like if you were playing Power Stone on one of those and it was all like modern resolutions and stuff, I couldn't tell. It just looks amazing. So anyway, so
It really does look
I
great.
had a little sliver of the joy. It's always a bit of like before we kind of go off the like how the 2-player game was. It just makes you wonder as well, like Power Stone 2. Now I don't think you've like played it as much as Power Stone, but the battle's always there, like on the socials and on Reddit, like which of these two is better. And generally, like the consensus seems to be always favouring the original game.
Yeah, that's what
I do
get.
really like the second one. How do you rate them? I mean, if you're putting them side by side, which you like and why?
Oh, I definitely like the first one better. It's like, I mean, like I never played Power Stone 2 like really very much at all, but like I never got into it as much as the first one for whatever reason. I don't really know why. It's just didn't quite click with me. Although I do quite like the fact it's like got 4-player element to it and things like that, so you can utilize all the ports on the front of the Dreamcast and stuff like that. But yeah, nah, just I mean, I don't even own the second one. Like, it's like I literally was happy and content with the first one, so I never picked it up, and I'm probably not gonna now because it's probably like cost a bomb, doesn't it? The second one, I would imagine.
Well,
so.
I mean, I think I picked it up about, I say 20 years ago, like in the 2000s, and it was already like sort of in the 40-50 quid market, or if I remember rightly anyway. It wasn't like it wasn't rock bottom prices. It still had a tag attached to it. So yeah, by now, God knows. I mean,
I haven't even looked it up.
a quick shout out. What other games have we ever filled those 4 ports in? I think I've only ever filled the ports playing Choo Choo Rocket. I think that's the only game I've ever like played multiplayer on, even really. Like 2 players I've done on a few, but more than 2, don't know.
Yeah, I don't know. Actually,
Random
that's a good
sidebar
point.
for you. It's just
Yeah,
it's nice having them.
interesting thought.
I did do it a bit on N64. You know, that was kind of had more party
like
game
GoldenEye,
friendly stuff, didn't
Perfect
it?
Dark.
Yeah. I don't know Power Stone 2 because if I remember rightly, I played the sequel first. I think when I like I said, I was picking up games, sort of trying to hoover up stuff I'd missed, and just kind of assumed I didn't really know the series that well when I got it, and I just assumed that the sequel would be better. You know, it's like the upgrade and stuff.
Yeah, go bigger and better and all that stuff.
I do really like it. I definitely wouldn't be down on it. I think it's a cracking game. I can see why people have a gripe with it because it is just a bit, I don't know, it ramps up the scenery. There's kind of like stuff in it that's like, I don't know, I wouldn't say silly, but it's kind of, you can do stuff in it that unbalances a bit. I guess that's true. And the actual fighting seems, it's not the be all end all in the original, but it seems a little bit more limited, not as much part of it. It all just feels a little bit more random, chaotic, and out of your control. which ultimately means it's a bit less satisfying. I do still really like it. It's a cracking game, in my opinion. But like, if you could, in my humble opinion, if you could see it, if you can get it for any decent price, I'd still pick it up. So.
Yeah, I would definitely grab it if it was reasonable. But
yeah,
like I say, I could imagine it would be pricey because it was like a bit later on, wasn't it? Pretty fewer copies kicking around. I would imagine.
Yeah, that always like hits the price, doesn't it? It makes you think though, like what other games like either of them, like the Power Stone series, are there out there, and have you played many of them? Because I start with Smash. That's the comparison that tends to be made most often because it is a kind of, the frenetic game. I mean, how like Smash Brothers do you think it actually is? Like if you sort of drill into it.
I don't know, because like I say, I can't really figure out Smash at all. It's like, I mean, it looks like it's really fun and people are like hyped for it at Evo and all this sort of stuff. But I don't know. I mean, like, it's probably like not even like Power Stone at all, I guess, in a way, other than that it's just really frantic and like pretty crazy and there's a lot of stuff going on the screen and that. I don't know if people like, like I've heard people like sort of like roll their eyes sort of like a little bit at the comparison, but like I don't know, I mean, kind of it looks like they're kind of in the same kind of area. It's like this brawl like that's a bit out of control and things.
The out of control brawl thing, and weapons, I guess, big attacks, like sort of create
I don't know, but
a bit of use of scenery in a way. But ultimately Smash is like it's still really kind of mostly side to side, it's not doesn't really go into the planes like
it is a bit of a stretch to kind of like compare it to that, but only because there's sort of like not a heck of a lot else that it's like, is it? I mean, you had a couple of examples, didn't you, that you mentioned? What were those ones?
It was interesting. I was reading an interview. It's like the Shmuplations interview. So if you dig into Power Stones, or you always come up with the Shmuplations interview with Tezuka, and there is like a reference, like the Japanese interview, as it was back in whenever it was the 90s, says, "Oh, this looks a bit like a certain other game," and the tone is obviously that it's obviously like another game, and even the Shmuplations guy and everyone else like not really sure what they were talking about because there are things that are similar. I think mostly they seem to suggest it might have been that Geitz. So we talked about this before. So that's like what Squaresoft characters or a mix of characters. Famous because it had some of the Final Fantasy VII people in it. But I think it was a Namco arcade, and then it came to PlayStation, I think.
I remember it was on the PS1, wasn't it?
And I guess at first glance, it sort of looks similar, because actually like the arcade one certainly like looks similar kind of sprite and quality of like graphics and stuff. But this I think from memory, there's just like you can pick up boxes, or at least there's interactive boxes, but there's not loads of weapons, there's loads of scenery elements. It's not like chairs and tables and loads of stuff you could throw. It's just there is some interactivity, and then if you can kind of the scenery has a lot of it is in a ring, but then there'll be additional elements where you can kind of come out the ring and you're into like a stepped area and stuff. I can see similarities. It's maybe like you can imagine this if you were doing early prototypes for Power Stone, you might kind of have had a game that looks similar to that, but it's so stripped back. I think the comparisons break down quite quickly just because it's like, and again, like I think the actual fighting doesn't really, I don't know, it's certainly not got the manicness of it. The one it really reminds me of these days is Dynamite Cop. I guess both of the like Dynamite Decker games, but like just the weapons, the crazy like things you can pick up and interact and use as weapons, like the speed of it. Even when the sort of like when you do attack, it's like the sort of just quick loads of punches, simple combos, nothing really intricate, just quick fighting. Like each of the little scenes that you're in Dynamite Cop is a little bit like a stage. You can kind of go up and down on levels, and you don't sort of interact with the scenery as much necessarily, but I definitely feel like that's kind of a lot of the feel. Obviously the overall game is different, because it's just, but you can see the elements are sort of there, and they were contemporaries pretty much as well, weren't they, as well? I don't know which was first. I think the arcade of Dynamite Robocop would have come first. Anyway, but they would have still been in the same kind of era as well. And then what was that other one? Oh, oh shit, I can't remember the name. Heavy Metal Geomatrix. So that other Capcom NAOMI game, which I don't think you've played a lot of, have you? I don't know.
No, I'm not familiar with it actually. I'm going to be looking it up after this episode.
I mean,
it might be one of those things I've seen that I just have forgotten about. But
it's all right.
My memory ain't that sharp anymore. But...
So you remember the important stuff, though, do you? It's just like you remember you owe me 20 quid. You remember that bit, right?
Yeah.
What a trickster.
That's a distant memory.
I think if you hadn't played Power Stone, that heavy metal game, I think you'd be like, oh, this is kind of cool. You know, it's arena, it's like big characters, some big attacks and stuff. It's not sort of as zany in the type of attacks and weapons you have. It's like it sort of moved a little bit towards more like a virtual on. It's still Capcom arcadey, like a bit crazy and silly and stuff, and the soundtrack's off its head because it's all, I think it's AC/DC, but it's definitely like loads of like proper heavy metal and stuff. It's quite good.
Yeah,
but it's bottom line, it's just not as good. Like I found it by comparison quite sluggish. Like the arenas were a bit too big, they weren't really very interesting and stuff. So I don't know, I think it's got its fans, but and you can definitely see a comparison because it's like you use the 3D properly and stuff, but I don't know, I just thought it was a bit, not as fluid, not as slick and fun really. And there are some newer ones. I think like I haven't played these, but like some new stuff like Combat Core and Last Fight that apparently like use the same dynamic. I think that Last Fight is basically considered like a clone almost. So
is it? Yeah, I was going to say I would be very surprised if there wasn't like some clones of this around or something, like, you know, lurking in the depths of PSN or something like that. You know, it's almost like ripe for a clone, isn't it?
Yeah, because these days, you know, you could knock together a Power Stone using modern kit pretty easily, I imagine, couldn't you?
Yeah, well actually Capcom have just recently released it in the Capcom Fighting Collection 2 actually.
Oh yeah.
I think it's actually in there, and the second game, isn't it? So yeah, it's actually that's probably the cheaper way to go than picking up the Dreamcast one or something.
Give it a go on that.
Yeah.
But I think it's I'll be glad that it's on there because it will find a new audience. It is surprisingly, considering the people that know it, how much they love it, and it did get a good reception when it came out. But it's surprisingly under the radar for so many people. I think
it's weird, isn't it? And it's like it makes me wonder why I didn't pick it up at launch as well.
Yeah,
it's like, why did I do that? Like, there must have been a reason. I must have read like something about that it didn't have a 60 hertz option in it or something like that.
See,
so I remember
that
when
really hurts you, doesn't it?
I know it does, but however, then I think like on the flip side, I did purchase Virtua Fighter 3 TB on launch day for the Dreamcast, which again didn't have a 60 hertz option. That
let yourself down.
I can fix it though because of like it works with this as well and it clicks into it. It's most games kind of seem to click into 60 hertz quite well with this little trick. The only one that I really remember having a problem with is Sega Rally 2, like the PAL version of that. But then I just got the Japanese one anyway because I think that's better. I think the PAL one was like really bad or something as far as I remember. But it made me think on launch day, like I got Sonic Adventure because I had the Dreamcast, the Japanese Dreamcast one, but I didn't know what they were talking about because it's all the Japanese. So I got the PAL version of that, and I got Virtua Fighter 3 TB, like I said, and the other game I got, which is really random. Do you remember a game called Trick Style?
Yeah,
like some kind of...
Do you know I've got 3 copies of Trick Style? Anyway.
yeah. That's probably saying something, but
it's really saying something.
Just chucking them out.
Well, that it is, because that is one of those games where when I was picking up games, like say, hoovering them up, and things were starting to get 30, 40, 50 quid, and Trickstar was still like 3 quid. And it's like,
But like, I mean, I'll be honest, I did like kind of enjoy it in a weird way.
Yeah, it's all right.
I've never had any inclination to go back to it or anything like that, but it was like, I kind of felt like I wanted to do something new and different, like on launch day. You know what I mean? It's like, you know, when the Saturn came out, like we were saying when we was on Sega Guys, we was all like arcade conversions, arcade conversions, arcade conversions. And I thought, like, you know, I'm gonna jump into like a completely fresh original game. You know, it's not Sonic, it's not an arcade conversion. It's just something new, and like, yeah, and I picked that one up, and now I'm thinking like, why did I not buy Power Stone? I bought Trick Style over Power Stone. I mean, that can't be right. It's like, what's wrong with me?
I can't really explain it, because it did review well. It was like, it was well thought of. I would just say it wasn't raved about. So I went looking, and like the review for Power Stone, not that we would have read this at the time, but like I found a review in Edge, and they're really glowing about it. It gets 9 out of 10. They say it's absolutely cracking. It's like the jewel in the Dreamcast crown, and comments like that.
Yeah, people did say that. Yeah,
it's buried. It's like 2/3 the way in. It doesn't have a lot of prep. You barely know it's in there. Like if you were looking at the cover and stuff. Admittedly, because they're just like multi-format, like there's massive amounts about PlayStation 2, because it's sort of the spec and stuff has been spoken about and whatever, and there's a big feature for that.
The lies were beginning.
The lies were beginning, yeah. All those demos where you're like, dude, come on, that's not. It didn't look like that. And but yeah, you know, and I think that's the thing. I just maybe didn't quite get the hype and the buzz and stuff, because people didn't know what to make of it. I don't know.
Yeah, and there was also like 15 launch games, I think, wasn't there, for the Dreamcast? So it's like, you know, that's quite a lot of games. I mean, it's really good that there was that amount of games, but at the same time, it's like you can only pick so many, I guess, can't you?
Yeah.
And it's like, and for me, like, I did pick, like, I had to pick 3 on top of the machine, because it was like, you know, that was a lot of money, I guess, wasn't it? But, yeah, I don't know.
And that's the thing. If one of those, it's like a game like Soul Calibur, where you can kind of, you know, put it this way, like on Saturn, we got Alpha 2, and it didn't matter that Alpha 3 came out. I only need Alpha 2. It didn't matter pretty much any other game came out. Alpha 2, I would happily have just played forever. And it's a bit like that. Soul Calibur for months was just soaked up. Yeah. Like so much time, and
it was just so good.
So you could see how, like, once you'd missed the boat, then maybe just it wasn't like they were raving about it. It did, you know, it had adverts and it had press, but just not huge at the time. Anyway.
Yeah, but I'm glad that I did pick up my copy, because of like and again, it's like I can't remember where I got it, but I also can't remember when I got it, like in the sequence of the Dreamcast kind of, you know, the whole Dreamcast live, like. But I'm glad that it obviously made enough of an impression.
Yeah.
That I thought like, I must get it, like, at some point. So yeah.
Well, I'd say this, like, I think probably most people listening or watching have played it, because it's sort of in the community is quite well fated now and like spoken about a lot. But if you haven't, oh my god, it really is worth getting. It 100% holds up, and it's still like a brilliant game. It is just a bit expensive, so you might just have to get yourself a GDM. Now, we not normally, you might notice, we normally start with like history and devs and stuff. We talked a little bit about how this like started out, but it's worth like chucking in a few of the nuggets about it, because I suppose
there is some interesting stuff, isn't there?
So one is, it didn't start out as a Dreamcast game, like is our understanding.
Apparently not. Yeah.
Where was it destined again?
Well, so there was speculation that it was going to be a game for the 3DO M2, which was the follow-up to that console that never materialized. It was cancelled in 1997, although I think there is like examples of stuff that they've been developing for it around, and I think online now.
I saw someone bought the tech, didn't they? And like, if it had a life or something, I can't remember what it is. I won't pretend to know. So.
Yeah, but it was, I mean, I remember people raving about how powerful this machine was going to be and stuff, and it was really like, oh man, this thing's going to be a complete beast and stuff. So I was really excited for what they were going to do with it. But Capcom were apparently investigating it, like with the idea that they were going to make some kind of 3D fighting game in it, and like I guess they'd put out a few of their ideas and talked about it. That it was going to be like a weapons-based 3D sci-fi fighting game. But I think what seems to have happened is that the ideas that they were kind of talking about, or I don't know if they showed much or anything of it, but it seems to be what went into Star Gladiator, which was that 3D
those elements kind of fit there too, don't they? Or maybe fit better.
Yeah. So it kind of seems like that all ended up in Star Gladiator, which was ended up on the PS1 and stuff. Very good game, actually. I really like that
Yeah,
game.
yeah, it's decent. And the thing is, though, like
Yeah.
you look at who made the games, and there's a lot of cross pollination between the devs between the Capcom games, and some of the Star Gladiator people did work on this. And
Yeah.
so you think, because I did read that thing with Tezuka producing, he did say that they were working on it for M2, but I get the impression that the idea that they were working on it was more like they had the project spec. They didn't even have the game. No, nothing had been built. It was more like, oh, we're going to make a game. Oh, that's where it's going. And before they even really got anywhere with it, that was canned and they moved to
Yeah,
NAOMI.
it was wrapped up.
Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah, because it seems like that when they were once they started development on NAOMI, they were playing around with all kinds of stuff. Like they didn't have the gameplay really pinned down at all. Like 3-button setup, like 6-button setup, down to like 2-button setup and things like that. And then one of the other things like they were kind of describing that we were talking about before we started recording was like it sounded like it was going to be on 3 planes, kind of like Fatal Fury or Guardian Heroes or something like that. Yeah, so it was going to play out kind of in that kind of manner. But yeah, they eventually, obviously settled on having it full 3D in these arenas, and they did a really good job actually. Because one thing that I did notice while playing this is that I never had a problem with the camera. No. It's like they got that really well done, haven't they?
Yeah, and that's the funny thing. It seems so much like they started out with this concept from the off and fine-tuned it. And you read it, and it started out as 2D, then like it was like planes, then they went isometric, and I guess that's the thing. It's like the whole thing is in view. Really, it's not. You don't really explore like a changing 3D world. It's just what part of the set you can see. And that's just a very clever move, because it feels like you've got all the freedom you need, but the camera just never messes about. Because even on Virtua Fighter or Tekken or any of those, where you can kind of hop to the side and rotate or dodge or any of that stuff, I still find the bloody camera gets confused, even doing that tiny, really simple kind of plane changing things. You're like, how can you be getting confused doing this? And yet, Power Stone, never a single problem. Like,
it was great the whole time.
And there is tall structures and stuff like lampposts and pillars and stuff. They never get in the way either. Yeah, it's very well.
I think it works very well. I mean, and the only thing you really need to know about, I suppose, that's off screen is when a gem goes flying off to one of the far corners. But then you've got like that little grid like sort of thing, so you can see which kind of area of the map it's in, and you can start heading that way if you want to.
It's great actually, isn't it? Because it just kind of brings that. It's like, one, you get better with experience at knowing, if it's gone there, I know I'm going to have to like approach this way, or there'll be platforms and stuff, and brings a bit into it. But it's just like another little bit of gameplay, the bit where you sort of do the manic chase after the gems that go flying. It's not that's not a fighting game. That's like, I don't know what that is. I guess that is a bit like stuff you do in Smash. That's one of the comparisons. But anyway.
I guess in a way, actually, do you remember in Marvel superheroes, like they had those infinity gems or whatever?
Yeah,
and, like,
stuff would just fire off.
You could like hit your opponents and make them drop that, but like, I mean, you didn't kind of have to build up an entire collection of them. You could like individually use whichever ones you picked up. Actually, that's a little kind of comparison of, in a way, of how it works. Like, you hit your opponent with a hard move, they drop the gem, and then you go and get it, and it's like, it's a little bit like that, isn't it? I suppose.
That's a good comparison. So, well, I think the other thing about that bit of history is that obviously then they did move to NAOMI, and this was their Capcom's first NAOMI game, and I think it's still. I think Sega were courting them. I mean, they courted a lot of developers to say come to like NAOMI, and they were very successful with it. And I guess maybe they were lucky with the timing, because maybe it was a part of a feature of games companies just didn't want to have to develop the 3D boards and tech that they need. It was one thing doing their 2D boards back in the day, but the kit you needed for a new arcade, it probably got progressively harder and stuff. They were very successful in NAOMI, but Capcom on NAOMI, and therefore on Dreamcast, that was just one of the big wins for Sega in the era. I mean,
Yeah.
you know, it's obviously sad Dreamcast had such a short life, but despite that, that still seemed like such a success. You know, like the amount they churned out on it, and they were hits as well. So what we've got, I'm going to look at the books. I'll forget some other, like Cannon Spike, Capcom vs SNK, Giga Wing, Heavy Metal Geomatrix, like was on it. I don't massively rate it. Power Stone 1 and 2, Marvel vs Capcom 2, Project Justice, and then a couple of others which like I've not played, but like, you know, that's a list, right? I mean, that's some of Dreamcast's best hits in there, and arcade best
great
hits.
games.
Yeah,
No, I like it. I mean, like, yeah, it was great to have, you know, Capcom was such good comrades, weren't they, for Sega, like, you know, on the Saturn and stuff, and like, you know, even when everything else had kind of dried up, they were still putting their games on it and stuff, and then that continued nicely into the Dreamcast era. And it kind of felt like, you know, Sega kind of were doing them a favor as well in a way with Naomi a little bit, because just keep them on board with what they were doing and stuff, which is nice, especially kind of after struggling through the 16-bit era where it was like so hard to get Capcom to do anything for Sega. It was always like they were Nintendo's buddies, weren't they, and stuff like that. And then once Sega finally cracked them and got them over to Segaville, that's when things started rolling.
And I don't know. When I think Dreamcast, it's probably out of my top 10. Like a bunch of those games like dominate the top 10. Like Capcom and Dreamcast for me is one of the big wins. I don't know. Yeah. There's probably still more like Sega first party or kind of joint published games that I prefer. But yeah, like, oh god, they're so a big part of it. So yeah, we haven't really talked about devs. I guess the only thing I'd say on them is like we mentioned earlier, they did try to bring in a mix of devs that had worked on arcadey fighting games and devs that had worked on home console games, and they were going for the mix of arcade action but then the 3D know-how to deliver this particular project. But the heritage of the devs behind Power Stone is just cracking. It's like I won't list it all, but essentially you've got people that like key people that worked on Final Fight, Street Fighter 2, Super Street Fighter 2, Alpha 2, 3, Street Fighter 3, Darkstalkers, Resident Evil, Monster Hunter, Devil May Cry. I mean, I don't know how big the dev teams were at Capcom, so I can't pretend to sort of say how unique that is, but that's some quality experience working on this puppy.
Impressive.
So,
yeah, and also they had guys who did like rival schools and stuff like that.
Rival schools,
pretty fun. You know, there was the second game on the Dreamcast, and that was pretty fun. I always thought it's I think it's really expensive actually nowadays. But they also had the second Star Gladiator. I think it was called Plasma Sword for us or something like that. Like, you know, that wasn't like Naomi or anything like that. But it's that was I enjoyed those games. Like, I always thought that was really cool having those sequels on the Dreamcast.
I think it was actually that Rival Schools game that persuaded me to get the GDMU, because I remember I can't remember how much it was, but it was like, I'm not this is I can't be getting into this.
Oh, really?
It's like,
let's do. Thankfully, I bought them at the time, so I think I checked him on CEX actually recently because I bought them back at launch, but I didn't actually ever really give it much thought. But I think I looked on CEX just out of interest because I think maybe I saw one of them in the window there, and I was like, oh man, that game's gone up a bit. It's like, that's steep. You know what other game like I got that I didn't realize went crazy was it was Pokemon something Gale of Darkness or something like that. It was like it was a bit more RPG like Pokemon game.
Yeah.
And they had that in one of the CEX windows, and I was like, oh my life! It was like hundreds. I can't even remember what it was going for, but I was like, oh wow, that's pretty steep. And I was glad because I quite liked it at the time because it did feel like a little bit more have a bit more of an RPG like element. Yeah, which I kind of thought was good, like would have worked really well on a Pokemon game, and kind of like having it actually on the GameCube as opposed to like the Game Boy, because I was getting tired of those kind of graphics by that point. So I thought it was time for them to push on. But anyway, yes.
What's weird though is how expensive all of those Pokemon games are. I mean, considering that generally it's not solely this, but generally if a game sold en masse. It's however good it is, it stays cheap.
Yeah.
Yeah, those Pokemon games on the
Exactly.
Game Boy, they're still like,
Steve.
yeah, the original ones. You see them unboxed, just cart only, sort of regular at 50-60 quid. And I'm like,
Yeah.
there must be an absolute ton of those. Like, how?
Surely is. It'd be like charging like 50 quid for Sonic 1 on the Mega Drive or something.
Yeah.
There's like millions of them out there.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, for some reason, anything Pokemon just commands like insane prices, which is really annoying because I had some perfect condition Pokemon games with all the boxes and all the stuff inside it. And I just took it to a charity shop once and it was like, what did I do that for? I mean, I hope they did very well off of them, of course. But like at the same time, I was like, I wish I didn't do that in a way. But
You know, like I don't think I ever played them on the. Sorry, quick tangent. I don't think I ever played them on the actual Game Boy. I first did an emulator on the PC, and because obviously they go on a bit. Like I've turned the speed up and played like whatever it was, like Pokemon Blue, like on 3 times speed, just like whip through it. But because of that, I couldn't have the sound on because it just obviously was too squeaky and annoying and stuff. So I remember the whole time just listening to the Days of the New album, and it's like just. So when I first heard the sound of Pokemon, I was like, that's what it sounds. Anyway, there you go. That's it.
Well, actually, that could have been a saving grace because there was like one of those internet kind of mystery thing about one of the Pokemon games. Was there one called like Leaf Green or something like that? There was a particular iteration of Pokemon, and there was some village, and apparently the music can like drive people to madness or something like that. And like there was all this like people ended up dying or something. It was like all pretty nuts.
Oh man,
I think it was
sorry, I
probably,
should
like,
stop
one of those
laughing
weird
because that's dark.
stories,
But also that's so weird. That's just so weird. Well, anyway, right. You know, tangent aside, I've got to ask you the fateful question. Would you still play it today?
Oh yeah, for sure. Yeah, I mean, like once I kind of got back into it and kind of like started getting a handle of it, I started really enjoying it. I mean, like the kind of end boss was a little bit annoying, that second one, like before the slug thing. But like, you know, I mean, that is quite standard in like kind of fighting games of that era, isn't it? It's like suddenly you hit this wall of difficulty with these end bosses and it feels a little bit cheaty. But actually, it was like, it's a bit like Seth in Street Fighter 4. When you first play it, he's very annoying. But once you figure out what to do, you kind of can beat it. And it's sort of like the end boss.
I'd even take
like
that to M. Bison in Street Fighter 2 was the perfect example of that for me. I just remember like I used to be like, easy. All right, like Vega and Borg and stuff like were a bit tricky, but
Vega,
you could get through them and stuff. But then M. Bison, man, on the original game, I'd be there for hours. I don't know why. It just seemed to. I couldn't work him out. So anyway, there you go.
The CPU had extra license for cheekiness, didn't it? Because like in World Warrior, because you couldn't control them, the bosses.
You didn't know what was
they
feasible.
Were actually capable of. Yeah, so the CPU basically could mug you off as much as.
Yeah, because he could do his charged up like Psycho Crush or whatever it's called, like just immediately. Yeah. You know, it's like okay,
there was no charging for the CPU.
No. What a punk! Still got the rage.
But basically. Yeah, no, I know. Yeah, but no, basically, I love the game. Really enjoyed it. Really loved discovering the secret 60 hertz thing through VGA. So it's gonna be that is definitely a more, you know, inclines me more to play it, knowing that
it's a double win for that OSSC and VGA setup because that looks great.
Yeah.
But taking it for 50 and 60, wow, yeah, that's a big one.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
Yes. So how you feel about this one?
Oh hell yeah! Like I would say it is one of the games that I now play the Dreamcast for. It's, you know, there are plenty. But most of the time, like the stuff that I'm playing on it is stuff I didn't play back in the day that I'm now sort of discovering through GDMU and stuff.
Yeah.
But this is the one where like I'll often play something else, but I'll have a go on this afterwards. And in fact, like, you know, before we were doing this, I think the reason we decided to do this book club, I'd been playing it like a bit and I was thinking, oh yeah, we should play that, like do that for a club. Because it's just,
you know what it is? It's put him right what once went wrong.
Damn straight.
We didn't give it enough time,
straight.
did we?
Yeah.
Sorry, I just completely interrupted you where you were going. Continue.
No, I feel like you rounded off perfectly, my friend. Just see, finishing each other's sentences like a lovely old couple.
Oh yeah.
There you go.
Yes. It's, yeah. So that's it. So what's up next then, huh? Usually you ask me that, so
Yeah.
I'm setting it up
It's
here.
getting late.
so-
I was just enjoying that chat so much. I just sort
You
of
were just
drifted off.
chilling,
I just
keeping it
drifted off
real.
into a little reverie. Mr. Dibs ahoy! What are we playing next,
Oh,
big
yeah.
man?
Oh, funnily
Funny you should ask.
enough, I've got it written right here in front of me in preparation. So we are playing an absolute beauty. We're going back to 32-bit, and we're playing a classic that we did play a lot back in the day. And I remember a few heated moments actually with this one. Saturn Bomberman, but it was great fun. Like all of us gathered round in Benjamin's room, like playing this. Like, you know, how many players could it have up to? Like loads, basically. Couldn't it?
Yeah.
You had the multi-tap, and yeah, we all just had a great time playing this. So it's gonna be interesting going back to it now for book club, checking it out. So
God,
yes,
God,
Saturn Bomberman.
I love this game. So I'm honestly so stoked about it. And things of, you know, we've mostly over the years been playing this now, like just against CPU, still cracking. The one player mode, we'll get into it in the thing. The one player mode's a pretty decent game as well. So, you know, there's plenty to be said. But I just love it. And so I'm stoked that we're going to be playing it because it is one
Yeah.
of, I'm going to give you a little bit of a spoiler. I would
go
still
on.
play this game today. I've ruined it.
Oh my
I'm sorry.
goodness.
Yeah.
Well, there's no point even doing the episode now. That's
Yeah,
the bit
just
I
skip-
wait for.
Just skip to the next book club. Anyway,
Okay.
it's good. It's good. Yeah, very
Well,
exciting.
there you go. Yes. So, I guess that's a wrap then. And, as always, with all that being said, well, this has been great.
To really think about it, isn't it? I don't think he wanted to go. He was just enjoying it so much. Oh well.